temple by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are very privileged to have outlived the 50 years that it took to establish a very, very solid temple here, but that has been done. And what our goal is for this next hour or hour and a half or so is to present the impressions and historical perspectives of people who actually were part of the temple. We are extremely fortunate to have Srimati with us, who was actually the very first member that was initiated in Seattle by Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, very first one. And we're going, we have Kanti Mati with us also, who spent years in Seattle. I will say a few words. My name's Don Porterfield. We are hoping that Lakshmi will be here, and Radhanila Madhava Devi Dasi is on her way and should also be here. She has some, I think, very vital things to say to you. Well, how we would like to start out with is with Srimati giving her her history and senses of the past.
Thank you very much.
Where's that other microphone? Would you like to talk into this, or do you want a handheld one?
I don't know the difference.
No, just give her this. Make it a little closer.
Hare Krishna. Huh.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Yeah. I'm going to try to not read so much, but I need a little help, so. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devan Gauravani Pacharani Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Praskaja Satarani Jai Srila Prabhupada Haribol Hare Krishna Hare Krishna. So I had been yearning for the perfect father with the absolute truth from very deeply in my heart for many years through youth and college years. I knew he was out there. I could feel him in my heart. He was protecting me, drawing me to him. He would be teaching me the ultimate divine pleasure principle. I had drawn pictures of him and titled my concepts, The Answer. I was meditating and studying chakras in a cabin on Orcas Island, still looking for the answer. One day I ran into a girl who was doing the same thing in a cabin up the hill a little further. She joined me in the evenings for dinner of flour and water pancakes and old molasses, some welfare food that had been left by hippies who had crashed there in the past. We were both reading books about Eastern influences on our Western culture in those days. We changed our names to the names we found in the books we were reading. I took the name Saraswati, and she took the name Ma Kali. After about 3 months, I got sick due to a diet and came to Seattle to see a doctor. Later, I was sitting on the steps in the University District, on the steps of the post office, which actually were there back then. And across the street, I could see a poster. I was drawn to it. I got up and went across the street, and there it said, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And under that was a picture of Prabhupada and an invitation for the public to come to to morning artiks at 7 a.m., also Sunday feast. I was staying at a friend's house, which was only 2 blocks away, so I got up early and came in the front entrance and was amazed at this beautiful picture that was in the entry. It was this blue person, very beautiful, with a cow and deer. I was to find out later this was Krishna. It was a poster, like I had seen a poster of Prabhupada, now I'm seeing a poster of Krishna. And now I'm looking into the eyes of these beautiful, these faces of these glowing faces of these beautiful devotees looking up at the deities, because they're this way and the front door is over here. So they're all sitting on the floor looking up, and I'm walking in and I said, wow. The devotees are just gazing at these deities, the Jagannath and Baladev. That's all there was in those days. The incense was filling the room, as was the sound of an harmonium. These were all strange and unusual sounds and sights that were filling my heart, as Vishnu Jana said to me, "Welcome home." I was home. I sat on the floor alongside him as he handed me a paper with songs written on it. I did my best to follow along. After this, we all sat on the floor around a madras and ate delicious breakfast of oatmeal and banana milk. It tasted like nectar. This was another word I would find to be used quite often. Nectar. Then we prepared for Sankirtan. Excuse me. This meant we went up to the University District, sang and danced all day on this street. When we got back to the temple house again, we offered food to the deities while we sang and danced some more. Then we ate delicious food called prasadam. And when we studied Srila Prabhupada's books, they were still in manuscript form. The Bhagavad Gita had not been printed yet. Vishnu Jana engaged me in helping him make puppets out of dolls that we bought at the Goodwill. We would carry on this activity for the next 2 years. I have some pictures of that, probably might show up later. So the devotees' enthusiasm was a big influence on me to join. I went home and the first day, got a sleeping bag and came right back and stayed forever. They were getting really excited because Srila Prabhupada was coming on Sunday. Everything was cleaned and decorated and talked about as major importance. All were invited, and when Sunday came, there was no room to sit or stand anywhere in the temple room. Srila Prabhupada was being honored as if he was the greatest of presidents, or the greatest movie star, or Gandhi, or Christ himself. Well, who could this be? The devotees' love of him was making me feel grateful to be there. He was given the special seat that we had been making for him. Apparently he had just arrived in Seattle. One of his servant girls, a girl named Govinda Dasi, I learned cooked. I'm sad she's not here. Okay.
It's okay.
I know, I get emotional. Awful. Okay. Anyway, I learned she cooked and cleaned for Prabhupada at his apartment in Seattle. Another girl, Harsharani, performed arti. Soon, Srila Prabhupada would teach his devotees how to do full arti ceremony for the first time here in Seattle. Before this, we just did dupe arti. I was to learn that Srila Prabhupada began in New York to establish his preaching center there. Then he went on to San Francisco before coming to Seattle. Gargamuni and Upendra preceded him and set up a house temple on Roosevelt Way. One day, while on University Street, singing and dancing our hearts out, a bus pulled up and I could see my friend from Orcas Island in the window. I yelled at her, "Get down here now!" She jumped off the bus, joined our chanting party, and never left. She would eventually be initiated Janavadasi. I was to be initiated the next week on Sunday when Srila Prabhupada was coming again. There was so much preparation going on. I was to buy 6 yards of fabric to wear as a sari. The girls taught me how to wrap it. I remember walking down the street in my new sari with my bead bag in my hand, waiting for Srila Prabhupada to arrive. I had to go for a japa walk to collect myself after all this excitement. Back at the temple, so many people had shown up. The excitement grew. Some of my old friends had come. Srila Prabhupada's car pulled up in the back as the brahmacharis escorted Srila Prabhupada in through the kitchen, as it was easier than approaching from the front, which was full of people. We also have some pictures of that temple. The devotees sat up for a fire ceremony as Srila Prabhupada had directed them. There were 3 of us getting initiated, Ribharinandan, Jayagopal, and me. Vishnu Jana had given me some beads to chant on, and they were a kind of a black seed. After Srila Prabhupada chanted on them, he handed them back to me saying, "Krishna bullets, very good." The kirtan was ecstatic. Srila Prabhupada named me Srimati Dasi, saying it was another name for Srimati Radharani. After the feast, Srila Prabhupada and Tamal talked about me traveling with the traveling Sankir party, which was leaving for Los Angeles in the morning. Tamal Krishna was eager to have a traveling Sankirtan party that would be the startup group to establish temples, particularly all over California. Generally, all of Srila Prabhupada's female devotees were married or soon would be. I was married and had 3 children at a very young age. My mother helped me to raise them after my divorce. Tamal was discussing with Srila Prabhupada if it was appropriate for me to travel with the Sankirtan party. Srila Prabhupada said it would be if Srimati were married, but since Srimati has dedicated her life to it would be better if Srimati were married. But since Srimati has dedicated her life to Lord Krishna, she should join the traveling Sankirtan party. So it had only been 3 weeks now that Srila Prabhupada and his devotees had come to Seattle. When I met them, I knew I was finally with my true family. Now I was leaving my other family behind. Srila Prabhupada had said in his lecture that when one becomes a pure devotee, all of his relatives for 100 generations will be liberated. I knew my mother could take care of my children's material needs. I would take care of their spiritual needs. Now it was my goal to become a pure devotee, even if it would take several lifetimes. I wanted Cody to hear that. It's my grandson over there. The next morning, Vishnu Jana, Tamal Krishna, Jayananda, Madhavisa, Ribharinandan, Sudama, Jayagopal, Vimanadev, and I traveled in a van to Los Angeles. Srila Prabhupada flew down. We greeted him at the airport with all the same jubilation as every other time we greeted him. Flowers, garlands, chanting, as we were all wrapped up in cloths that nobody in the airport had ever seen before. They were also unfamiliar with our joy while chanting as we walked next to Srila Prabhupada with his head held high. This is the way he walked. We had set up an apartment for him in a hotel above the Chinese Gram Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. This is when all my pastimes with Srila Prabhupada really began. The end.
Next, we have the honor of listening from Kanti Mati.
You want to walk through the photos? There's one more mic.
Oh, first we're going to have some photographs that you have, and we'll walk through them. Yeah, no worries.
So this is not Seattle, but it's me and Prabhupada and Kasalya in Jaipur. I just purchased Radha Govinda, the New York deities, and then we had a huge Pandal Pro. Is this coming through?
It's working.
Okay. This is on Hollywood Boulevard. After we got down to Hollywood, we were in, on Hollywood Boulevard, we'd go out and chant. I guess this is actually later from La Cienega, but this is basically what it looked like back then. That's Vishnu Jana. And this is here back in Seattle. That's Vishnu Jana and Kasalya, myself, and a few others. I'm sorry, you could go on now. Okay, this is back in Seattle. After I came back from India, I had sculpted my own Radha Krishna deities, and then this is Abhishek Janmastami in the old Issaquah temple. This is Radha Nilamadava. And at their feet is a baby Krishna I made for Janmastami. And then my deities I sculpted of bronze, Radha Govinda, I guess I call them. I would just call them everything, all kinds of names. And so this is part of the Abhishek ceremony for Janmastami. That's back on Hollywood Boulevard. Keep them rolling. Anybody back there? So Vishnu Jana was a musician with the Jefferson Airplanes, and he taught me to play their gourd, tambura, as if it was a guitar with two hands instead of one. Anyway. Are there any, we have some more of Issaquah. Can we bring those up? I don't know what this is. Oh,
That's the temple.
I see. That's the temple on Roosevelt.
The Roosevelt Temple.
That big, huge thing was not there then.
Of course.
This is the house right there. And when they go in the front door, there was a big poster of Krishna. And we took Prabhupada in the back door through the alley. That's probably a for rent sign or something.
The altar is right behind
Yeah.
this window.
Yes, the altar is right behind that window. There is a cloth in that window, and the deities are right there. And then when you go in the front door, it's a little portico, and there's a big picture of Krishna. But when you go in there, you can see the devotees looking up at the deities, and it's awesome. Yeah, that's the first Krishna temple in Seattle.
Later on, they made the entry at the back.
Oh, that's in the back now? Oh, yeah. I mean, after that? And this is across the street from an Indian restaurant that is so popular. They bought a little restaurant, then they bought the next building and the next, and now they own the whole block. It's across the street from the temple. Could have been a Govinda restaurant. Are we going to get some more Issaquah? The pictures we're waiting for are there. So this is the Issaquah temple before this building. And hopefully the idea is that you'll recognize some of your old friends. Maybe you'll be in those pictures. She would be. And that's me, and that's Petrarch on that side, and we're not sure the person on the other side. I don't know if Hari Vilas would be in there. Not yet? This is an Abhishek going on with my bronze cast of the deities. They're about 18 inches tall. Okay. There's just more pictures of them with, the honey and the milk and the yogurt and the ghee, the nectar that we're creating, bathing Radha Krishna many years ago.
What was the lights?
Must have been 1978 or so. Was Issaquah a temple then? I mean, your little one? What year did that start? Anybody?
It was a small temple room to start, then we knocked out the bedrooms to make the room bigger.
What
as
year
time
was
went
that?
on.
Start 89.
Yeah.
89.
Oh, no.
It
was
started
that
in
late?
89.
Oh, I made my deities long before that.
It was
But
probably into 90, though, when it
Really?
actually
Not
got
this
going.
one, but the
We bought
original?
it in 89, and
Oh.
it took 10 months to get it ready. And the deities
I-
were at
I-
Radhanila Madhava's.
We don't mean this building. We mean the building before this.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Rambler, the 3-bedroom Rambler,
Oh.
that the house that this was.
Oh, good. We're on the same page.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay. We don't remember his name, if anybody knows it, on the right. Pradraka's on the left. Nanda Kumar, maybe? Is that it? There's a.
There's another one.
Oh, this is back on Griffith Park with Vishnu Jana. That's me sitting next to him on the right. I don't see any puppets, but that's why we went there. It's Kasalya next to me, and Sahadevi over there. But Griffith Park was really huge. We would put on puppet shows and tell Krishna's pastimes, and then all the people, or they're not devotees yet, but all the people in the park would follow us to the temple, which is now at that point on La Cienega, yes, La Cienega. And Vishnu Jana was like a Pied Piper. Everyone would follow him to the temple. These are some of my first puppets that I made with him, that they made it to the Back to Godhead magazine. This is like Krishna Vogue. Back to Godhead magazine is. You got to show the Back to Godhead at the top. The magazine, yeah, there. One of the early Back to Godhead magazines. I don't know if Radha ever had blue eyes. She does there. It's very fashionable. Now, is this today? Here? Is it Gua
That's
Temple?
18th and Harrison.
Oh, that's the Harrison one?
Yeah.
Boy, it's so overgrown. It's hard to tell. This is Capitol Hill, when we
Yeah.
had the temple on 18th and Harrison.
Oh, thank you.
I sure don't recognize it. Do you, Conti? Do you recognize it? Oh, okay, now I'm seeing it. It's so overgrown, it's hard to see it there. So these are the pictures you took that day when we went temple watching. Okay. This is the next temple, which is in Madrona. It's now, it was a beautiful temple. It was a church back then, and today it's a remodeled townhouse for residents. And our beautiful parking lot is, I don't know, it's not anymore. You were there, weren't you?
Yeah, actually, what our plan was as time goes on to show the temples as we progress through time. So actually, Srimati's entrance into Krishna consciousness was that temple at Roosevelt on 5516, Roosevelt Way Northeast. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we were going to have Conti kind of talk about the one on the other one.
Can you talk about this one? No, she's here
When you're
at this one,
finished,
too.
when you get all
Oh.
done, then we'll go to the next step.
Okay. Well, my talk is through. I'm just talking about pictures. Would you like to?
Now? Now?
We'll go to the next person. Are you all finished?
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
describing pictures.
Okay, well, what we would like you to do, Kanti Bhatti, is just give us your impressions of the time that you spent early on, and maybe talk about Bhumi the cow and things of that nature.
I'll try.
So before Grace Kantimati Mataji speak about the old memories of Seattle, so she has got very close association with Radha Neela Madhav. So before that, we just want to have this kind of a little interesting quiz on some of the famous ISKCON deities. So that will lead us to a good segue for what she's going to describe about on Radha Nila Madhav, the early days of worship of Radha Nila Madhav. So this is just a puzzle or a quiz. So just raise your hands if you know which deities it has been projected. What is that? No, which deities it is? Yeah, Radha Madhav in Mayapur. Yeah. Next one. Okay. Next one. Yeah, Kalia temple in Fiji. Okay. Next one. Okay. The next one. Okay. Now, Murli, you have to stay silent now. Next slide. Radha Nadavar in Columbus, Ohio, because it's a very unique form where Krishna is dancing. And
I purchased those in Jaipur.
okay. So, Srimati Mataji, one of her earlier service was to just purchase the deities, and she purchased, just now she told me she also purchased the Radha Kunj Bihari in Detroit.
Yes, Detroit, Texas, the Texas deities for the deities in the Texas school, Kalachanji, and then Radha Govinda in New York, and Toronto deities.
Okay.
Radha, you remember? Villabaja. I don't remember. No, not in Toronto.
Do you know anybody knows the deity's name in Toronto? Mataji is trying to recall.
I've got it on my other.
Yeah, I will find it.
Some other time we'll remember.
Okay.
It's Radha Krishna for sure.
Okay. Next slide. Which deities are they? How many of you say Radha Nila Madhav? There is one more picture of it. Okay. So now Kantimati Mataji will speak about it.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So I guess we'll start off with this picture of Radha Nila Madhava. And there's a great similarity between Radha Nila Madhava and the deities in Fiji, because they came from the same mold. And after Radha Nila Madhava was made, they made the Fiji deity, Fiji Krishna, and after they made Radha Nila Madhava, the mold broke. So there are no other deities on the earth like Nila Madhava and Kalia Krishna in Fiji. They are the same, came from the same mold, made by
Fate, it was fate.
I would suppose it would be fate. Bharadraj?
Bharadraj made them? I think so. I think
Fate devotees. Fate is first international FAT, transcendental, whatever.
Right.
Exhibit. That's what it was.
Right. Anyway, that's a little short story about Radha Nila Madhava. And in 1970, I believe it was, late 1970, is when we first came to the temple. We had a farm in Lake Stevens. Thank you. And we sold jewelry at the Pike Place Market. We were hippies, self-sufficient hippies. And we saw devotees coming through the market every now and then, chanting. And I believe Vishnu Janaswami came through the market one time, chanting where all the vendors are. And we were just, what is this? Who are these people? And so it was some time passed by, and I had a daughter that was 5 years old at the time, and we put her into the public school out in Machias Cutoff School. And they didn't appreciate our lifestyle. They didn't appreciate that we sent our daughter to school with homemade clothes, which were very nice, and milk from our cows, and cookies that I made, and they didn't like that. So they told me we were teaching our child duplicity. And long about this time, we were, well, first, it's hard to get this straight, so long ago on my memories, but we started coming to the temple because I wanted to know about the school. I heard that the Krishnas had a school. And a devotee came up to my booth one day at the market. We were having a street fair at the market, and I asked him, do you have a school? Do you Krishnas have a school? And he said, yes, Mataji, we have school. Can you tell me about it? Well, I don't really know anything about it, but you can come to the temple. You can come to the temple and find out. It was Sunday. We were having a street fair at the market. So my friend and I, at that time, we were all still uninitiated, and he and his wife were childhood friends from high school of mine. So they had been reading Bhagavad Gita, and my daughter sometimes would go to their farm in Bothell, and they would be reading Bhagavad Gita and Krishna book. And I didn't know if I liked that very much, because she was being trained by them sort of in this Krishna thing, and I didn't know about the Krishna thing. So I was a little, well, I don't know. So I said, well, I'm going to go to the temple and find out. So we covered our jewelry, and we went up to the temple, and I was on Roosevelt Way. And it was Sunday feast lecture, and there was you went in the back door, the picture you saw, they had made the entrance at the back, so that when you came in, you could see the deities, because the deities were up against the wall facing the street. So they had a huge clamshell, and that's where you're supposed to wash your feet. And it's full of grass and kind of dirt and whatever, and I'm like, this is my first experience at the temple. So I put my feet in the clamshell, and we stepped into the door, and bam, I got hit in the chest with a pillow. And I was like, what's going on in this place? The pillow hit you and you come in the temple. It turned out it was, they were reading from Krishna book, and the story was about Krishna and Jambavan fighting over Jambavan's daughter Jambavati, and they had come to throwing boulders in the fight. So I got hit by a boulder. Krishna's mercy. So then we went in and we sat down, and all I wanted to do was ask about the school, but there was a whole program going on, so we sat there and we ate prasadam, and I listened, I looked around, and I saw on the altar these deities, Lord Jagannath, wonderful Lord Jagannath. I had no idea. I said, who are they? What is it? And so at that time, there was a devotee there, Kamsari, and Patraka was there. And the president at that time was Makunlal Prabhu. And his brother, Naranarayan Prabhu, had built the altar, and they decorated the temple. And I think Srimati was already gone. You long gone. And so we took prasadam, and I was very sinful because the prasadam made me sick. I went out into the back and I was upchucking the prasadam. The devotee came up to me and said, oh, Mataji, you're getting so purified. And I thought, this is really an unusual place, this temple. But I liked it. I was very attracted. So I asked about the school when the program was over, and they said, we don't know about the school, but you can ask our spiritual master. He'll be coming in a few weeks to Oregon. And you can go down there and you can ask him. So we did do that. And she wound up in Gurukula. Srila Prabhupada accepted her as the 5th child in Gurukula in Dallas, Texas, which I wasn't happy because we had to drive her that far away from us, from Seattle to Dallas. I'd never been separated from my child. I was a little bit in anxiety, but we waited. We waited for a while before we left. So before we left, we got a little bit engaged at the temple, and devotees came and went, and then Makunla left, and Sukadev came. And Sukadev and Dinabandhu were in Los Angeles, and they got assigned to, Dinabandhu went to Portland, and Sukadev came to Seattle. And here was this fiery little guy. He was so fired up, enthusiastic. And the first thing he said to me, we were bringing things to the temple. We had beehives. We were bringing chunks of honeycomb and honey and bring that to the deities. We didn't really know what to do, how you do this. And he said, do you know how to sew? And I said, yes, I can sew. He says, can you sew some clothes for the deities? And I said, sure, I guess. So I said, how do you do it? He said, you just get some opulent fabrics and you make some cloth. Because at that time, Lord Jagannath had 2 outfits, and one of them was burned from incense on the altar, had caught fire. So he had these little tiny little satin caps, no crowns or anything like that. And so I just kind of looked at the deities and thought, okay, you know, and I went to the, to get opulent fabrics. I thought, well, we were quite poor, then I'll go to the thrift shop. And so I went to the Goodwill store underneath of the Pike Place Market where we were selling, and I bought some evening gowns, and I took them to the dry cleaner and had them all cleaned up, and I took them apart, and I used the cloth to make 2 outfits for the deities. And I brought them to the temple. Sukadev was so pleased. He said, these are so beautiful clothes. Where did you get this beautiful cloth? And I said, well, I just went to the Goodwill and got, and his eyes went like, the Goodwill? You went to the thrift shop? And I said, well, Prabhu, you know, you didn't tell me what to do. You just said opulent cloth, and I know they had beautiful evening gowns in the thrift shop. So he said, well, no more. Don't do that anymore. So we never did that again. But then he started engaging us more and more. There was, the temple was becoming very crowded. There was not enough room. They had spiritual sky stored in the basement of that temple in Roosevelt.
Spiritual sky incense.
Spiritual sky incense. And the temple basement flooded. And the incense got wet, everything was kind of messed up. So things were just getting, we had given a beautiful Persian rug to the temple, very old, beautiful, so that the brahmacharis sleeping in the basement would have something nice to sleep on. The next time we came to the temple, the rug was out in the alley, rolled up in the alley behind the temple. And I guess it had gotten wet, but the brahmacharis wanted to be more austere. They didn't want to sleep on a nice, beautiful Persian carpet. They were being austere, so that was the end of the carpet. So during all this time, we took our daughter to Dallas, and she stayed there. She wound up staying there for almost 7 years. And we started doing much more service at the temple. Sukadev we were hunting for a temple. So he found a temple on Capitol Hill, the 18th and Harrison Temple, and it belonged to the Catholic Church at the other end of the block, St. Joseph's Catholic Church. And somehow or other, he convinced Father Nuff at that church to sell us the big, big house at the opposite end of the block on the corner for $15,000. If you can imagine today, that's millions of dollars for that house. So we go over to the house. He asked us, can you help us set up the temple over there? So we were very excited. It was a very nice house. It was very run down. It had been a wayward boys' home for the Catholic Church. So started tearing everything out, and that's the temple there. And I planted most of those trees and bushes. It's amazing to see them so big. But we built a Vyasa for Srila Prabhupada that had been started by another devotee named Samaranananda. And Samaranananda's wife, Samsara Mochan, Samaranananda had to go away because he was a draft dodger. And so they put him into the prison house in McNeil Island. And so his wife, Samsara Mochan, moved next door to the temple with their children. And she's taught me how to put on a sari and how to make pakoras. And we worked hard together on the temple while her husband was gone. She did a lot of service at the temple. And where you see all those windows there, upstairs was the Tulsi house. We built a greenhouse up there for Tulsi Devi. And so we finished the Vyasasan, which was just a square box that Smaranananda had built. And we finished it and upholstered it. And then we needed an altar. So we built an altar in what was the dining room of that temple. Those 3 windows that you see there in the picture, that was the temple room. And then to the right, which was normally the dining room, that's where the altar room was originally established. And we had Lord Jagannath and picture of Panchatattva. So the deities were in that little area at the end. And then upstairs above the 3 windows, we made that into a greenhouse for Srimati Tulsi Devi. So the deities stayed there, Lord Jagannath, for quite some time. We went through, my goodness, so many changes, so many people came, it was flourishing. At that time, why? Part of the reason why was because of cow protection. Cow protection, the cow is economic development personified. She gives religious principles in liquid form. And the bull, of course, is Dharma. And so we had goats. And Sukadev told us we should get a cow that time. So we went, there she is. So we went to the auction in Snohomish. And there was a Jersey dairy farmer going out of business. He was bought out by Dairy Gold Dairies, and he couldn't keep his cows, so he took all his whole herd to the auction, and they were being auctioned off. This cow was the last cow on the auction. You can see she has no tail. She's 13 years old, and her milk sack was bigger than that when she was on the auction platform. She was very short. And the auctioneer guy was slapping her around and running her in circles. And we have these things you're supposed to hold up at an auction when you're going to bid on a cow. And Vishnyas next to me said, "Don't even think about that cow." And I said, "But look at her. I mean, they're beating her and they're hurting her." So they said, "Okay, this cow's going to go for the price of beef. Who will pay such and such money per pound for this cow? Do I hear such and such a money? Do I hear such and such?" And he said, "Do I hear somebody bid $550? And the auctioneer said, "She's going to make some fine dinners." And I was like, I didn't. So when he said, $550, do I hear 600? Do I hear 600? And I raised my sign. And Vishnyas poking me like this, "What are you doing?" So we got that cow, Bhumi. And we didn't even know how to spell Bhumi, so we made up a Bhaumi or something like that, UME. So this cow hadn't been milked for a very long time, but she was the butterfat queen of the Puyallup Fair for years in a row, it turns out. So with a milk bag like that, when we brought her home, I thought, my gosh, she hasn't been milked in days. So we tied her to the children's swing set, and I put a dishpan underneath of her, and we gave her a flake of alfalfa and started milking her. Well, she'd never been milked by hand, so she kept turning around and looking at me and turning around and looking at me and kept eating her alfalfa. And I got about this much milk in a big dishpan. We found out later she wasn't giving milk anymore, but she gave milk. And every day of her life, from then on, we brought all that milk to the temple. She gave 1.5 gallons of milk that was pure cream. No hardly milk, only this much milk in the bottom of a gallon jar after we milk it would be milk, and the rest was cream. So I started making ghee and bringing 1 gallon of ghee a week to the temple cooked for the deities. And seemed like from that time forward, things started changing in the temple. Mr. and Mrs. Wonderful, Mr. and Mrs. Barajaj were coming to the temple, and they were so wonderful, so helpful, and so supportive, and they were actually the only Indian people coming at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
So we would cook in the kitchen, and well, I don't think you cook in the kitchen in that temple too much. Mostly when we moved to Pine Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we proceeded to get 2 more cows. 1 cow we got by default. Some householders wanted to be kind of like us and get a cow, but they got a kind of a dud cow that had 2.5 good teats, and she was a spook cow, so you couldn't really milk her. She was just really crazy. And from then, the temple just started to flourish and grow and grow. And people started coming more, and we started having more money. And Sukadev used to tell us it's because of the cow protection, because we have the cow. So it wasn't too long after that that we left Seattle Temple. Sukadev left. He went to Hawaii. And the temple started sort of a little bit floundering. And few presidents came, but we had left for Vancouver, BC Temple. We stayed there for 7 years. And I got asked to come back to the Save the Ship program, according to one devotee, Petraka. There was no one to take care of the deities here. And the deities had even been tried to get stolen, taken away from us. And they were going to be taken down south to California somewhere. So a few devotees came down from Vancouver and stopped that from happening. And I wound up just staying back. We moved across the street from the temple on Harrison 18th and started doing full-time service at the temple there. There was very blissful days back then. We were struggling. And like Queen Kunti says, you know, she prays for calamities and struggles because that's when you remember Krishna the most. And that's how kind of we were back then. We were struggling and striving and trying so hard to make the temple grow, and do preaching programs everywhere, distribute prasadam. And then we had a president that sold our temple on Capitol Hill. There were so many pastimes there that were so relishable, but he sold our temple, and he moved back to Toronto, and we didn't know what we were going to do, so we got the temple on Pine Street, right? Madrona. Went from Capitol Hill. First they went to Radha Madhava's house for a long time, right?
Yeah.
That was way later. That was after we bought this place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any place really
While it was being
while this was being built.
Right.
Yes. So during that time I wasn't around the temple that much. We lived quite far from Issaquah, still do. But ever since we had this little house here, and it was a struggle, The foundation, it was a little house. I don't know how many of you were here back then. But there was a little house and the floor kind of went like this. And so we cut off logs, jammed them underneath of the foundation so that when the devotees were doing kirtan, the floor wouldn't fall in. And then Harivilas came. And the story goes on from there. You can see what's happened because of wonderful Indian community, wonderful leadership. Harivilas is just amazing leader. And to see the temple grow and become so beautiful like this and so many people come, it's just very warming to the heart. Now we need to go out there, Indians and everybody, and drag in all of the fallen white people, us, because there's nobody doing it anymore, right? And you all are so spiritual and holy already. Srila Prabhupada said one time that the Indian people are something like 10 feet away from Krishna, walking away from Krishna, and you white people, Americans, are 100 feet away from Krishna, walking towards Krishna, and if you turn the Indians around, they can take you home directly. Right? So here you are. Take us home. Get out there and do Sankirtan. They do Harinam Sankirtan parties. I think Parijata and a few devotees are out there right now doing Harinam downtown. And that's the most wonderful way to bring people to Krishna consciousness. That's how I got here. That's how Srimati got here. This is the most important work that our spiritual master wants us to do. It's to spread this Krishna consciousness. Chant the holy name in public, in front of everybody, everywhere. And I thank you all for all the support and all for what you've done. There's so much more to the story, but I don't want to take any more time. We can always talk about these things. Anybody who wants to know any details, we're available. And thank you so much for letting me come and speak like this.
Thank you,
Where are you going?
You have a car, right?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So as time went on, in 77 or 70, it was 77, I think? Yeah, the Bardwaj family came to the Seattle Temple, and Raksha Bardwaj later became Radha Nila Madhava Devi Dasi, for a very compelling reason. But I would like her to share how the family got attracted to the temple. It's something that's really amazing. I think you'll enjoy it.
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती गोपाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी नामिने प्रभुपदस्य साहित्ये ये प्रकाशद्वितजा प्रक्रम कीर्तन साधु भगवत पदाय ते नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामे नामस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारने निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चात देशतारने जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासती गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, my story will be a little bit different than anybody else because one thing, you know, I came from India and we did not know about ISKCON at all, nothing at all. So I have just write this thing just to remind myself how I got in here. Because in India we have the temple, we just go and do the pranamam and then get out, right? Okay, now here, when I came here, religious history about how did we get involved in ISKCON, social Society of Krishna Consciousness, of myself, my husband, with my 3 children, came in United States in 75. I came in 75, then my family came in 75 December. So anyway, after living here for a little while, I wanted to find out where the temple is, where we can introduce our children to the God, Krishna. Every day in the evening time, I was working in the hospital, my husband was working. My husband and myself, when we came home from work, then we used to take our children, 3 children, and ride all over this, all over the city, and trying to find out where the temple is, where I can introduce my kids. So we did not have any temple at the time. So one day we were after the work, we went to the group health hospital side, and then we were on 18th and Harrison. We were just riding there, and I heard the drum. I heard the drum, and I was thinking, what is that? What is that? I told my husband, just stop the car right here. He stopped the car, and then I went in the room. I said, voice is coming from there. So we went there, and it was a temple, but I did not know. So we went there, and then I brought my kids and my husband. We all went there. And these people, they were there before. These people, they were jumping up and down, up and down, up and down. I said, what is that, who jumps in the temple? That's what I thought, okay? I was my bad thinking. So I said, no, I don't know, what is that? So I saw the people were jumping. So we just stayed there. I said, whatever it is a temple. We will find out the information later. So we went there, and then we sat, and then took the prasadam and all that. But Kanti Mati, there are all other people were there, Patraka Prabhu. They were there, and then later on, after we had the prasadam, and then after the prasadam we did, I just want to know what was that, going up and down, because I did not know that. And then I found out from these people, the more I went to went to the temple, more I understood what it was, why they are doing it, because this time is so, wreck, we cannot even take, we cannot count our, brain. So slowly and slowly I found out, the more I went there, the more I really knew. But about ISKCON, I found out from there. So we just started to going there. Every week we have nothing else to do. Every Sunday, all we have to do is just go to the temple. 3 children and myself and my husband, 5 of us, we were there. And slowly and slowly, there was one day we were doing in the temple, and Harsha and Bharat and Harsha, them guys, they started to come. So I made friendship with them, and then we had a very nice, very good friendship. And every Sunday we used to take them with us and then show them there the temple, what we learned here from here, and this is the. Now our Indian people, they. Can I tell all the things?
Tell all.
No. Okay. Anyway, they started to make fun of us. And these people, oh, do you want to find Raksha where she is, or she will be just dancing with those tabla people, and she will be in the downtown, So I said, that's fine, I don't care where they will find me. If they need to find me, at least they will be a good place to find. They can hear some God's name. So, believe me, we did not go anywhere else except Sunday is there. Any party, any Indian people, they were having a party and all that. Said, no, on Sunday we just cannot come. Sorry about that. Sunday is our day to fix, fixed day that we are going to go to the temple. So anyway, we were very, very famous at that time. Everybody knew that where they would find us. And then my husband, he used to bring every Indian people to the temple every Sunday, 2, 3 more people there, and then they will introduce the president, they will do this, and then next Sunday they will come and they will find that president has been changed. President has been changed. Now my husband, he will bring the Indian people, but then they got tired of bringing to the temple, and then president has been changed. Our president, they used to change a lot. Remember those days? He was, lot of the president. Anyway, so then what happened was that, we were really involved in the temple. I don't know why, just that was all Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada's mercy, and our Gurudev's mercy, because we were just kept on going. And they, Bharat and Harsha, they were really good with us. And we just 2 family, 5 of us and 2 of them, 7 people were standing there, and Parthiva, the Aarti was going on. Just the 7 people, we were there, that's it. And then there was Shivji's birthday. So at that time, my husband worked so hard, and Manu worked so hard. He will be going with his father, to house to house. And then we had a plan that we can bring all the Indian people in the temple, and that will be a good thing, But my husband, they came, all of them, they came slowly and slowly, but at that time wasn't, because it was a big problem in our temple. Everybody was struggling so bad, like she was saying, we had a lot of problem. When these people were here, then at that time we were not supposed to go in the temple, because we have to have sari on and all that. Sometime, we had the clothes on, Kantimati, and then they would say, well, you guys can sit here outside of the temple and then cut the vegetable and all that. So we will just cut the vegetable. We did not do too much at that time. So then we will, give it to them. They will be fixing the inside. And I think in 82, it was so bad, very bad. So then I think our Maharaj, he found out that there is a problem going on. So he came over here. So, and at that time we have the, Pine Temple. At that time, so in the night time, my husband, after work, he came here, talked to Maharaj. And Maharaj said that, I think you should take over the temple. Maharaj said that to my husband. My husband said, Maharaj, I will try to do it, but there is not any one president, stay here. So that time we have a Nekatma, Prabhu. And then after that was
Manu,
yeah. So many, too many. And they're coming and going. Anyway, so our Maharaj said to my husband, I think you guys should take care of that, because maybe you will stay here, then they will be coming. So I said, my husband said, okay, I will give more time, Maharaj. And then at that time, what he was doing, my Maharaj said you should do the Aarti, and he gave him initiation in 82. He gave the initiation to my husband, and then gave the Chandrarupa, what was his name? My husband. And Chaitanya Rupadas. So Maharaj, after he said it, then my husband was starting more the time and doing, and he was doing, they gave him 2 days or 1 day Aarti. He was doing the Aarti because he had an initiation. And then he was doing the Aarti, and we were allowed to go in the kitchen. Then we were fixing the prasadam. At that time, they were not here. So the Hawaii, I did not know you guys went to. Anyway, so we started doing the arti. I said, my husband was doing the arti. We were making the prasadam after our work, you know. So that's what we were doing. And after that time, in Shivratri, oh gosh, do you remember that? There were so many people who were in the Shivratri at just one. And, you know, there were full of people, maybe 400 people were there in that, temple. Everybody was so happy. And then we had a Nekatma Prabhujan when they bought this temple, small one, you know, you guys saw that, huh? Small temple. But then everybody worked so hard, you know, slowly, more and more people started to come. Nekatma Prabhu was really nice, and he was very, very kind person, very nice. Anyway, he tried to do it. And after, I'm not going to tell the whole story because I have written that. But, you know, from the 23rd and temple we have it. But they bought this temple, and then after that they didn't have place to move anywhere. Now because I was a lady, my husband knew everything, every small thing, because he was very, you know, type of talking person to my Guruji, and he was very friendly. Anyway, so he said, they had a meeting, said, why they are suffering so much, what should we do, and all that. Maharaj was here, our Maharaj, Guruji was here. And then he said, I don't think they have, these murtis have to go anywhere. They have no place to go. So what we do, what we should do, we cannot move in this temple, we cannot stay in that temple. So where should we go now? So Maharaj said, I think, Maharaj and everybody was sitting there. So our Maharaj said, okay, Chaitanya Rupa will take this duty, all of them, except...
No, Sitaram.
Huh?
We did not have Sitaram then.
We didn't have what?
Sitaram at your house. Are you talking about your house in the garage temple?
Yes, yes. So Maharaj said that, okay, now this all duty will go to Chaitanya Rupa's house. I was not there, so my husband said, yes, Maharaj. He never, ever can say no to anybody, in fact, you know. So my Maharaj said, so he came home, and my husband came home, and he said, you know, my duties are coming here. And I said, what? So Maharaj said he's going to be here. I said, you know, I had no problem to doing anything for Krishna, anything, you know, for donation, for anything, nothing. But coming to our house, I had some little bit thinking, because my daughter, she was only 13 years old at that time. Now I think everybody can understand what was my inside feeling. At the time I said, you know, Vibha is just 13 years old. And you know, when I have the temple, everybody has to come and in and out, and I have to work, you have to work. But my husband didn't say, don't say that, he said. He told me that until now, who is helping us? Just Krishna is helping us. So we had so many loopholes, so many, you know, in the other country. So I said, okay. So he said, and you know, Krishna is helping us until now. Nothing is going to happen in your house. I said, fine, Krishna is in my house, who else can go wrong? So Chaitanya Rupa was there, Bhagwanji, and then Krishna was there, Jagannath was there. I had 7 murtis. You know, so we had that in our house. We didn't have the big house. Whoever has seen it wasn't big house. But wherever we can let them have there. Over there, he was there. And then in our house, he was 8 months. 8 months he was over there. And then we have Ramchandra's birthday, Krishna Ashtami. Then we have the Rath Yatra. We have that, 8 months he was there. Whatever comes in from, in 8 months, Krishna was with us. And then believe me, then when he was there, so we were so happy that people were coming in and out, small kids and big, devotees and all that. At that time, if you guys remember Jagdish Maharaj.
Of course.
Do
He was
you-
instrumental in this property. Jagadish, you say?
Jagdish Maharaj.
Yeah.
He was there, he was the one was doing this all service and Tulsi Puja and all that. But whenever we were there, at home, we were going to puja and do that, we were be there. And then when we were at work, so then when we come back, we will see the Krishna is there, then we will just go run and then. But after he left, believe me, for 8 days, we cried so bad. I cried so bad that it was a lot of people coming in and out, and Janmashtami and all other, they were there. And then after that, we got used to it because we got involved in this temple. And believe me, now today, I still remember there's 5 or 7 people were there. We were doing the aarti. But now, believe me, honestly, I will say that, I get so happy. The more people I see in the temple, like a Krishna Ashtami, oh my God, I get so, oh, thank you, Krishnji, thank you, Krishnji. The more people I see, the more I get happy. It's not that we did something, or I did something, or my husband did something. Krishna has done everything, okay? Now, after all the problem that we have, since Harivilas Prabhuji came in this temple, my gosh, it was like, I don't know what to say because I'm not good at speak good language or something, but Harivilas Prabhu did so much for this temple, so much for this temple. I mean, I can just say it. I have seen myself him doing the, cleaning the bathroom, cleaning the, all other things. I never ever can see person working like hard he does, and he has done everything. And now I get so happy, and I have so much respect for him, honestly, because he does so much things. And he's not happy in the house. He just be there, here. Where is Harivilas Prabhu? He's gone here. He's here. He's here. He does so much service to Krishna, and I really respect him for a lot. He does, and I have seen him. 2 nights, 3 nights, he would not sleep it. Sometimes people wouldn't come for the help. Like, I am just useless now. I don't do anything. I can't make any help to Krishna. I don't do anything. But my husband was still good, but then Krishna took him away. So, I don't want to say further. That's all I have to say. But I really respect Harivilas Prabhu. He does a lot for the people, for Krishna. So I don't know what else to say.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, I haven't seen anybody helping like that. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you,
Radha.
Radha Devi Dasi. This isn't working. Well, I guess that I'm the next one to tell you about my experiences here with ISKCON. I got my first book in 1970. I was walking up University Way during the University District Fair, and there was this gentleman that was dressed in saffron clothing with a shaved head and a funny little, not a hair coming out the back of his head there, with a huge smile, reaching into this box and handing out these books to anybody that would take them, pretty much. I thought, well, that's pretty generous. Why don't I go take a look at this? Oh, I went to see him, and he had the greatest smile that I can remember. Reminds me of this gentleman right in front of me right here. Just a wonderful smile. He was giving out first and second parts of the first canto. And I took 2 of those and paid him $5 each for each one. And didn't know anything about a temple at that time. I just took the books and went home and started to read them. And to my amazement, there were answers to questions I had had all of my conscious life about spiritual questions that were never able to be reached by my Christian teachers, and not because they were not devoted, but just because they didn't have that aspect of knowledge, you know, that the East has. It amazed me. I didn't know about a temple at that time, and when I did find out about it later, Sukadev was the president at that time. It was in the, probably 72, 73 or so, 73 I think, when I met him. I saw him at the temple, and here's an example of Sukadev. As we were having a conversation one time, he taught me how to chant around, okay? And he said, this bead at the top, you don't go past that bead. So you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and he told me what that was. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, he said, what you do is you chant this on 108 beads all the way around, and then you go all the way back. That's 1. So for like almost 7, 8 years, I believed that that's what you did, to chant 1 round. And I couldn't, you know, as I got involved a little bit with devotees later, I couldn't believe how everybody got done so fast. It was amazing. Oh, it was 1978, actually, when I started to come to the temple. I was walking on the waterfront, and there was a devotee on Sankirtan. Oh, how surprising. He was talking to me, and we had a really great conversation. And it happened to be right in front of the waterfront park, which turned out years later, we had many, many Rath Yatra festivals right at that spot. So that became a symbol to me later. I'm a kind of a symbol guy. Well, I said, well, if anything happens, it's interesting, here's my phone number, give me a shout. Well, that was the first step to the change of my entire life, because the very next morning, not in the morning, I got a call from this devotee. And he said he had talked to the Seattle Temple president, and they thought that maybe they would like to see Prabhupada's books put in my house. All of those books, over a period of several years, I had gotten bits and pieces of the Bhagavatam, you know, as I had run into a devotee once in a while, and I would get one. I said, well, how much is that going to cost me? He said, $525. I said, come on out. So they came out to my house. I didn't have a bookcase, but I had a board that I put on top of some dressers that I had, and with some bricks on each side. And somehow or other, these 48 books at that time covered that whole area. And when they left, I just sat there and looked at it, and there's a particular richness of the colors of the books back in those days. You know, They were just incredibly rich. And I sat and looked at that set, and it just looked like this incredible jewel that was pulsating, glowing. It was quite amazing. So I sat down and started reading, and I began an association with the temple. Udamanyu Das was the president at that time, and he was a very capable devotee. He was very knowledgeable, and he had some very knowledgeable friends, one of whom was a man named Hasyapriya, who was from Vancouver, or had been up there, and he was the Bhakta leader up there. And at 2 in the morning, every day, he was up there chanting his rounds, waiting for the Bhaktas to come and start getting ready. He was a tremendous guy, very serious, and he was an accountant, though he was very, very sharp cookie. And it was Hasyapriya who really was my first window into Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I had heard the mantra, but I didn't make connections. You can understand that. When you first learn that, you just don't know. Oh, he really helped me to understand some of what this mission was. And as I read these books, something came over me. I began to see and to understand truly that this knowledge is so incredibly important. So important. And I was just, a guy that would come up to the Sunday feast. I was enjoying that. And as time went on, in 1978, a little bit later, I went up to see Udamanyu, and there was Chandra and Raksha Bhardwaj there with Sepan, Manu, and Viba, their children. And I just loved them right away. They were just such sweet people. Chandra was a soul that really helped me later, in that when things started to go south, he didn't really seem to be too worried. He just said, depend on Krishna. He always said that. And, we're sitting there with tears on our eyes and everything's going nuts, and he said, just depend on Krishna. Okay. But he didn't know how to do that. It was still too new. But one thing I did know was that Prabhupada had passed, and I did learn that when a pure devotee leaves the planet, that there is a dishevelment that is quite outrageous. Most karmis aren't going to know that, but devotees are going to know that. And there was a real strain put on the society after he left. And as a result of that, there were some actions that took place that left the temple bankrupt. And as a result of that, because I had become a life member, the Bhardwajas were the first life members in Seattle. Yay. And I thought, well, it's only $80 a month. I can do that. It costs $1,008. I get a passport, and I can stay in any temple for 3 days. Oh, it just sounded so wonderful. So I never did get a passport. But that's okay. I decided that to get hung up on some things was really a Maya deal. As I was learning a little bit about Krishna consciousness, I learned a little bit about obstructions that can come up in front of you. And it's called Maya, pure and simple. And things happened to the temple, and Maya was there with a message of, you don't want to be a part of this. Well, I kind of did, because those books had gotten into me so deeply that I thought, if these doors close, there couldn't be a greater crime in this. There just couldn't be. And I don't expect a lot of people to understand why I thought that. I think probably you do. But it was tough for me to think that that could happen, and it could have. And month to month, we didn't know if the temple was even going to be open. I began to spend more money to support this place. The Bardwaj family had a family. Chandra had a family to raise, and he didn't have as much money to give, but he had his time, free time, and he would go out with Kamsari and Petraka, and they would go to these different families all throughout town, and they would preach to them, and they would build the congregation that way. And then what I was doing was I was putting money into trying to pay the bills so that you know, we could have open doors so that Chandra Bardwaj could bring more people. So we just kind of worked together in that way. There was more tragedy occurred, and sadly there were many Prabhupada disciples left the movement. Udamanyu was one of those with his wife Jivana. Do you remember Jivana? She was the most wonderful person, always in a good mood, always happy, always encouraging, and that the whole world could be crushing, and she would still be happy and saying, "You're going back home, back to Godhead." And that's where I learned that. It was from her. And I say that a lot to people, and I enjoy it too. But yeah, Hasyapriya also left, and they took shelter of Sridhar Maharaj, as many did. But you know, I wasn't affected in that way. The only way that I was affected was that I understand that Srila Prabhupada has given us this knowledge, and it's important for me to support Prabhupada and his mission. And as you know, I later got clarified within myself that this mission is Lord Chaitanya's mission. And that, you know, it's going back to Bhakti Vinod Thakur to re-establish this, this message is so heroic to me. You know, to look back and to understand some of his life, and Bhaktisiddhanta's life, what they have done, you know, and it just, I gave everything I had to keep this place going. In 1984, we had to leave 18th and Harrison legally because it was someone uncovered a statute that says that in Seattle that you cannot have a place of worship any less than 50 or 75 feet from the nearest house. Well, we were in a neighborhood, so the nearest house was less than 15 feet away. So legally, that was how we got moved out of there by the community. Tripurari Swami at that time was with the movement, and he was very instrumental in getting this other temple on 32nd and Pine Street. Do we have a photograph of the 32nd and Pine Street temple? One of the things that made it attractive was it had 5 bathrooms instead of 1, and it was actually built as a church. It was a Baptist church that we happened to buy. That was the good news. The bad news was there was an $85,000 balloon payment in 5 years because the actual mortgage payment was condensed quite a bit so that we could make the payments, and then with the idea that we'd be able to make the balloon payment after 5 years' time, which to me was pretty incredible. But anyway, that's what was done. Bahu Duck and Tripurari Swami were both very much involved in that. After Udamanyu left, we got a devotee from London. His name is Ugresh, and he was brought here after Gopal Krishna Swami realized that, you know, we were having trouble when Utamanu had left, and him being the GBC over the area, he needed to make a choice, and so he brought Ugresh. He lasted about 2 years. And then everybody after that lasted a year or less. So between 1984 and when Hari Vilas came, we went through like 7 guys, 7 or 8 people. It was just amazing. What was happening was that what was going on here was so disheartening that people just didn't want to stay. It was just tough. But we were lucky in that there were some Sankirtan devotees, one named Malkanachor, and his wife, Krishna Vallabha. Remember Krishna Vallabha? Yeah, she was a Gopal Krishna disciple, and she and her husband pretty much made the monthly payment at the new temple. I mean, at the 32nd East Pine Street Temple, but we never did get anything in a treasury that made any difference. Well, by 1985, when the balloon payment was due, we couldn't make it. And then I found myself, because I'd been so involved, found myself being part of the board that was looking for a new property. And my job was to look through Seattle, and I could not find anything that was less than $250,000 that was worth anything. There was one church that was over in the Fremont area that would be perfect in Seattle. Very central, but it had a fissure that went from the top of the building all the way to the bottom that happened in the 1964 earthquake here in Seattle. And it needed like $70,000 or more in renovations, and we just couldn't do it. Didn't make any sense. Well, Jagadish Swami and another sannyasi from Vancouver, Vipramukhya Swami, were also, they were the real deciders. I just went out and looked around, but I didn't have anything as far as legality goes with ISKCON. They did. And I got a phone call from Jagadish Swami, and he said, why don't you come out to this place in Issaquah? I want you to take a look at this house. So I did, and it was a 3-bedroom rambler that was on 1.3 acres of property. And we sat and talked, and I still remember the conversation. We knew that we were going to be disliked because there was no place to go in Seattle. I'm sorry. We looked very, very hard. There was no place to go. Well, we moved Prabhupada's mission out of Seattle proper. And to this day, it's been over 20 years, there's people that still really dislike me because I was part of this. But to this day, I will stand on the decision in a heartbeat. I think we did the very best thing that could have been done for Prabhupada's project, for Lord Chaitanya's project, and for ISKCON to get this property. And when we talked, we thought, you know what, may not be in our lifetime, but there is enough property here that if some motivated president of ISKCON, is able, everything is here for him. So it was done. It was like $115,000, and we were able, from selling the temple on 32nd and Pine, we were able to make the balloon payment, and we were able to make the down payment on this place here. It was. Well, if you don't believe in miracles, I don't know how you can't if you're with this organization for any length of time. Oh, 1989 was when this, the due came and we weren't able to pay it. We got this place, and everything I thought was going to just be wonderful, but it didn't go that way. The devotees, ISKCON and the devotees here seemed to be further and further away, and then pretty soon there were temple devotees electing themselves president, and it was just got to be too crazy for me. And after, you know, I had given over $150,000, well over that, including an inheritance. Everything I had come here. And I thought, you know, Prabhupada, I'm sorry, but I'm just throwing good money after bad, and this isn't going to work. You know, there were rats crawling all over the place, and I quit. In 1991, in summertime, I quit. So it doesn't work. And then less than 6 months later, Hari Vilas Prabhu came. So it's easy to see what's happened from then. And, you know, Hari Vilas has done a lot to change my life. Here's a real easy way for you to understand that. In 1993 and 94, we did Rath Yatra by circumambulating the temple. And that was about all that Mr. Hari Vilas could take at that time. And so then he decided that we were going to have a bigger festival out along Alki Beach. And so he did that, and it worked out well. And then after that, he says, hey, Don, how would you like to do it next year? Well, that was famous last words for me for about 20 years. Because I became the coordinator for all of the festivals that we did for up until 2014 or so. And I can do nothing but thank you, my friend, because it really, really helped to deepen my life in many ways, association with the devotees. Oh, also, I got to back up a little bit, because there's a motive, okay, behind me. There's two reasons why you can see me today. One is to support the mission of Prabhupada. And the second is to do everything I can to enable the devotees, because when you are out there working and having a good time, it just makes my heart sing. So that's the reason I'm here.
I want to say something. Okay, now you know, inside things, he knew. I have no idea what had happened, because my husband knew everything, and my husband didn't want me to know all the things going on. He never wanted me to. So I don't know anything. That's why I didn't mention anything. Because my husband and them guys, they were doing everything. And if I will ask him something, he said, you don't need to know what happened over there. So I said, well, that's fine. So that's why I just did not know inside thing. They know more, so they are the one who are doing it. And thank you very much for Hari Vilas and Don Prabhu.
Yeah, it just goes without saying that what Hari Vilas has achieved here. I'll back up again just a second, just to say that when he came here, obviously I was a little bit suspicious. You know, after being through 10, 12 guys in that many years, you wonder, you know, who's sincere. And he said he was going to move his family up, and I said, oh, yeah, and, you know, that he was really going to live here, oh, yeah. And, but he did. And I watched him very closely for about a year. And then after that, I realized he was sincere. Is when he got here, you know, we had all these rats, right? Well, what's he do? Smart guy, he gets a cat. He didn't, you know, deal with exterminators and stuff. He got a cat, turned it loose, you know, and he just knew what to do. He performed the artis by himself. He cooked. He did the dishes by himself. His wife, Parijata, she was doing the same thing. She was helping. They were doing everything themselves. And he kept doing it, and he kept doing it, and he kept doing it. And he's still doing it. So I can't thank you enough, Hari Vilas, for your appearance here. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done to help my life.
Just a quick note. ISKCON is a big, big organization, hundreds of temples all over the world.
I hope so.
Every temple is different completely. You'll go from one, you'll see this program, that program. But I have to say, we don't realize sometime, I think, how fortunate we are in this temple to have the leadership that we have here now today. We have been through some trials and tribulations. When I moved to Vancouver from Seattle, Vancouver was having problems. Well, everybody had to pull together, and now they have a great big temple on 8.5 acres, right? Because of the leadership at that time. The leadership here is so fantastic compared to some places that I have been and I've seen, and I've been around the world seeing temples too. Hari Vilas is just an amazing person. We're so blessed to have his association. His service to Srila Prabhupada is undaunted. So always please support this temple, this man, and the preaching that goes on here is just wonderful. We need to expand more out there. Down Porterfield Prabhu, they're doing food trucks, free food distribution. Everybody can take part in this. It's so blissful. And the people out there, they don't know what they're missing. Yeah. They have no idea what they're missing. Trust me, we were there. So thank you so much for supporting, and please just spread Krishna consciousness wherever you go, all your friends. I know a lot of you have jobs in businesses, maybe Microsoft, Boeing, whatever. You can tell your comrades and your workers, your co-workers, and just be blissful, and they will see from your example, oh, maybe we'll try this, like we all did. We all just went on a whim. You know, what? Oh, let's try this. This looks nice. And they will come and be blissful. Take part in this wonderful Krishna conscious movement, and like Don Porterfield says, go back to Godhead.
He's so kind.
Hari Vilas definitely made an oasis out of a briar patch. We would like to hear from another important soul that got his start here in Seattle. His name is Mukunda Dada Das. Yeah. He has, on his own, he has been incredibly touched by Prabhupada's teachings. And I'm just so impressed by what he's been able to accomplish. I'm so happy to introduce you to Mukunda Dada.
Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. 50 years is half a century, and that's a long history because none of us really lives much more than that. I myself came into this Seattle project, now that I think about it, it was about 20 years ago, which is almost half of the history. I came here to attend the university and went to graduate school in University of Washington, and just came to find out, I found out where the temple was, and I came to see what was happening in the temple. In those days, the temple was in a little blue shack that you've heard about already. And the deity worship was going on, and devotees were starting to come because Hari Vilas Prabhu had been here for some time before that. That period in my life made a big impression on me, largely because of my involvement with this temple. Because I just came as an ordinary congregational member, you can say, although I was initiated, but I was busy with my own service. And I was visiting the temple, but the congregation, they reached out to me, and they wanted me to conduct some programs among the exploding congregation at that time. It was growing very fast. And somehow or other I came in touch with this was in the Microsoft heyday, came in touch with all mainly Tamil Ayers working for Microsoft. And they responded so enthusiastically to whatever programs I could conduct in my spare time that it became an inspiration for both of us. Srila Ramanujacharya, I believe it is, he comments on one of the verses in Bhagavad Gita that when Krishna Katha is being spoken, the hearer becomes enlivened and the speaker also becomes enlivened. And that was my experience. And for a few years that I was here, while I finished my graduate education, I saw these devotees grow in Krishna consciousness very rapidly, and due to their enthusiastic receptivity to the message that they had never heard before in India. And they've since become leaders in their own rights in the various places that they've relocated in India, here in America as well. Govinda Charan Prabhu is one of them. Vednath Iyer is also doing very nice preaching work in South India, where he comes from. And it was many others. This morning when I was doing parikrama of the deities, I was looking at all the names on the tiles, all the names that I was stepping on. And I was just appreciating how much devotion. Not all of them are still here. Even most of them maybe are gone. I don't know. But we're here in life for a short period of time also, just as I was here in Seattle for a short period of time. But it can be very productive if we know how to take advantage of the process of Krishna consciousness, which is mainly affected through association, satsanga. And this temple is here. I was fortunate enough to play a small part in the growing of the temple and the congregation that was really flowering in that period and since, late 1990s. And when I see all the names in the floor and on the tiles here, I remember all these people. I know many of them. And we all have our names written on some tile somewhere, even if it's not visible to human eyes. All of us have some part to play in this great mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and in this particular manifestation of that mission here in Seattle Temple, because we are all sitting here today. And we have to act now in such a way to make the most of whatever this opportunity can afford us. Because the opportunity won't last. We will be gone. We will be taken out of this world one way or another. But it's a great, great opportunity to take part in the Sankirtana movement. And very merciful deities here. I don't know nowadays if it's still true, but I remember in the old temple that anywhere you used to stand in the old temple, devotees used to experience that Srimati Radharani is looking straight at you. Anyway, this is infinite divine grace being distributed through this now large temple by the hard efforts of Hari Vilas Prabhu and those that he's inspired. Really, as we've heard already, I can say, because I've also seen, that due to his hard work and unquestionable integrity and Krishna consciousness, I don't know if all of you even know, before Hari Vilas Prabhu even came here to the Pacific Northwest, he already had a long history of distinguished service in ISKCON. He played a very key role in opening up the European Yatra. He was a long, long time dedicated Prabhupada man, devotee of Srila Prabhupada. And those who have heard the Govindam prayers any time, his record George Harrison produced, he was participating in that as one of the artists. And so really, I have to say that I've really appreciated that, beginning with Bhakti Charu Swami last night and so many of those, everyone that we've heard today. This temple means Hari Vilas Prabhu. And it is here in the state that it's in today only because of his efforts. And we all have so much tremendous respect for him. And and admiration for his wonderful example of pure Krishna consciousness and the contribution that he's made to this movement. I'm sure is vouchsafed for him a place in the spiritual world, but I'm also equally sure that he won't want to go back to the spiritual world. He's the kind of person who is incessantly dedicated to helping Srila Prabhupada effect his mission of preaching Bhagavad Gita throughout this material world. So all of us can appreciate these things, I hope, and in perspective, in 50 years of history, I think the last 25 or the last half of the history of the temple that we know it today is really as a result of the efforts of Hari Vilas Prabhu, and so let us all give him complete support and respect and take advantage of his wonderful association, because, as we said, anything we can lose at any time. So I just wanted to say that. I'm not a major player in this temple by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been very touched by the time that I spent here, and since I'm coming as well, ever since 1990s I'm coming here, and it's always a great pleasure to be here. Hare Krishna.
Well, that concludes this portion of our celebration, Golden Anniversary, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Oh, Hari Vilas. Well, that concludes what we have to say. Now, Hari Vilas would like to ask you to say a few words, please.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasada Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharani Nirvisesa Sanyavani Paskati Lisatani. The only thing I have to say is, who's coming out on Sankirtan this afternoon? You going to come, Kantimati? I said, the only thing I have to say is, who is coming out on Sankirtan this afternoon?
Who's coming in? Now?
Yeah. Okay. That's what I want to see. Yeah, I think spreading the movement of Lord Chaitanya is the purpose of building the temple, and all the sacrifices that all the devotees have made. And it's to build up that enthusiasm and determination to go out and preach Krishna consciousness. So I think that would be the best testament of all our experiences. All the sacrifice that was made, all the travails that were experienced, and all the festivals that we've done in the temple and outside. The purpose is to help Srila Prabhupada in his mission of serving his spiritual master and fulfilling the prophecy of Lord Chaitanya, Pritiviti Atiriyata Nagaradigrama Sarvatma Prachur Haibe Moranama. This spreading of Krishna consciousness is absolutely necessary for this society. The society that we're living in now is imploding. It happens periodically, but it's imploding in a very dangerous way now. And the people outside do not have the answers. They don't know what to do. They see things are disintegrating. They just don't know what to do, other than protesting, fighting, violence, despair, coming up with one failed plan after another. So this is when we can establish the absolute necessity of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness has the answers to solve all the problems. But do we have the ability to articulate and demonstrate those answers? That is the fundamental question here. Are we actually serious enough to further the purpose of Srila Prabhupada, which is to organize society according to the Vedic system of Varnashram Dharma, not necessarily for the devotees, but for the general public. The devotees who do chant their rounds and follow the regulative principles are in a safe position because they can tolerate all types of difficulties and not be scathed by it. But the outside people, they don't know what to do other than intoxicate, run away, buy more ammunition and guns, hide money in case there's a breakdown in society. They don't know, they really don't know what to do. So they need an organized system in which there is the possibility to have a balanced material life and spiritual life and make gradual progress spiritually. You have to organize the material life according to the Vedic system because it's the most practical way to make gradual spiritual advancement. So we have to convince people, and we can. And I've been thinking about this very carefully. There are several themes that could resonate with the general public. It doesn't matter whether the government people accept it or not. It's the general public that's important. One theme is called the pacification of nature. Prabhupada speaks about this in the Isha Upanishad. Nature is running wild now. She's out of control. And it's causing havoc in many countries in the world and the United States. But Prabhupada says that it's possible to pacify nature. That is, when people become regulated in their behavior, in other words, if they accept the four regulative principles and chant Hare Krishna, then the background arrangement of nature, the demigods and Krishna, will cooperate with people. This is what's missing. The scientists reject any spiritual knowledge. They don't accept that there is a background arrangement of nature. And because of that, they have no clue what to do. But through Krishna consciousness, we can actually communicate with the devas through Krishna. And the devas follow what Krishna says. So then they would cooperate with us. And nature would become peaceful again, just like in the time of Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda Mai in Vrindavan. Vrindavan was very, even though it's in this material world, it was a very, very opulent place. They didn't need any fertilizer. Because the cows were happy, they were fertilizing the land by dripping milk. Right? And even though demons were coming and trying to disrupt things, still, because of Krishna's presence and because of the faith of the residents of Vrindavana, there was opulence, natural opulence, not the opulence like in Dwarka and other major cities. It was a natural opulence. Fruit trees, plentiful water, greenery, beautiful birds, beautiful flowers, and people were happy. So, we have to demonstrate that we actually believe the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and recreate Vrindavan. When Lord Chaitanya was trying to go to Vrindavan, Advaitacharya tricked him and brought him back to, I guess it's Shantipur. And Lord Chaitanya said, "What have you done? I want to go to Vrindavan and you've tricked me." And Advaitacharya said, "Wherever you are, my Lord, that is Vrindavan. This is what we should do. We should create Vrindavan. Already the temple is the spiritual world, but we have to expand it out into the Seattle area. And the way to do that is through festivals and Sankirtan. If we can do that and give a taste of the peace and happiness of living according to the simple principles of Krishna consciousness, the mass of people will go for this. Politicians may not, but the mass of people will, because they're being harassed now by violence, by economic problems, by nature, by each other. So we have the knowledge to bring about a major change and reorganization of society. The knowledge is there. But do we have the soldiers, the people who are actually going to go out and convince others that there is a better way? If we're coming to the temple, if we're listening to classes, if we're chanting, if we're following the regulative principles, like Prabhupada, we should become determined to spread this movement to every nook and corner of the world. Now, we might, how do you do that? You don't have to travel around the world to do it. You just have to go out on Sankirtan, especially downtown Seattle. You'll meet people from every nook and corner of the world. This is the way the Sankirtan movement is going to go all over the world. They are coming to you. They're taking Delta Airlines, they're taking United Airlines, they're coming here from every part of the world, thinking their purpose is to go to Pike Place Market and see those guys throw the fish back and forth. But actually, the real reason they're coming here is to meet us in the streets of Seattle, and to get Mahaprasadam, and to get Bhagavad Gita, and to get association of devotees. That's the real reason why they're coming to Seattle. That's the real tourism. It's called spiritual tourism. But if we don't go out there, we're letting those people down. And we're not doing our duty as loyal disciples and followers of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada took a risk. A 70-year-old man left Vrindavan to go to the bowels of civilization called the Bowery in New York. And he did it because he had faith in the message of Lord Chaitanya and his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's divine grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Therefore, he came out of the comfort zone, risked his life, risked his comfort, risked everything to spread this movement. We should be inspired, and we should meditate on that example of Prabhupada and be inspired by it, and make a decision that we also will get out of our comfort zone and get serious about Harinam Sankirtan. And Sankirtan is like this. Some weeks ago, when we were distributing food at the University Heights Center, Prasadam, Manoj Prabhu, who was serving the food, preparing it, he took a break and he came out. And there was this one homeless man. He actually comes every week. And he went up to him and he said, "Hi, my name is Manoj. What is your name?" And the man started crying. And Manoj said, "Did I say something wrong?" He said, "No." He said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "You're the first person to ask me what my name is." So you see, people on the street are human beings. They have feelings. Many of them are lonely. Many of them feel as if they're disenfranchised and there's no hope for them. And we go out and we give free prasadam. It's not food, it's prasadam. And we treat them with dignity. And it resonates, you see. People are touched not by words, but by actions. We need to go regularly out there and perform these little actions of empathy and mercy. And we will bring about a revolution in the Seattle area if we get determined to do it on a regular basis. So who's going to come out today? Daniel comes out every week, so you don't have to raise your hand. We should definitely go out on a regular basis and be part of the Lord Chaitanya's Harinam Sankirtan. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nivarpanam Shairak Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipradam Pranamritasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Sankirtanam. Yeah. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon, is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. So if you want to taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness, you must come out on Sankirtan, because that's the way you're going to actually taste the nectar. If you want to have knowledge, you must come out on Sankirtan, because you're blessed with knowledge by risking your life to spread this movement. Krishna is in your heart. All knowledge comes from Paramatma. If you go out and spread Krishna consciousness, Paramatma will bless you with revealed knowledge, with revelation. And if you want to be happy, this is the greatest happiness, by spreading Krishna consciousness. So we should understand this, that yes, we did build this temple. Yes, it has a wonderful congregation, beautiful deities. It's regularly prasadam, we're doing festivals. Now we have to do something much more dynamic. That is, the Harinam Sankirtan is the most dynamic way to spread Krishna consciousness. When people see other people happy, it's a magnet. They say, wait a minute, what do those people have that makes them so happy, that makes them so giving, that makes them so ready to smile and speak nicely and share things, and things that are very endearing. Just like when that person gave you a free book, Don, that was a turning point in your life, right? Yeah. So we should go out there and give. We're giving prasadam, we give books, we give association, and above all, we give, like Bhakti Churu Maharaj explained last night, the most sacred gift, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So you should be a giver. Be a giver. And when you give Krishna consciousness. That's the greatest giving. It has the most auspicious result. Well, that's all I want to say. So, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Testing, testing. Well, thank you for your comments, Hari Vilas Prabhu. Definitely appreciated. And thank you all for coming to this portion of the golden anniversary of Seattle Temple.
We'll be going out at 3:30.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here. And we are continuing these celebrations after Nagar Sankirtan. Let's have Prasadam after this. Nagar Sankirtan, come back by 7 p.m. at 6:45. 7 o'clock Arati, and then the Pushpabhishekam. And there are children's performance also at 7:30, but depending on 8 o'clock, depending on how the Pushpabhishekam happens. Either we will have something today or tomorrow morning we have a lot of time. After the Prabhupada, the Pushpabhishekam and the Bhagavatam class, we reserve 2 hours tomorrow, so we can have the program tomorrow and again later in the day of tomorrow. So we will, the program could be a little dynamic, but we will adjust to that. I just want to thank everybody, not just as the speakers, but they're the real doers, right? And that is how this great movement in Seattle here is established and continuing. Like a great river is not that great at the starting point. It looks very small, but over a period of time, over a course of time, it becomes bigger. And that's exactly what we are experiencing. We are at that point here, and it still continues to grow. We thank you for everything which you are seeing today. The seeds are already sown long time back. Either the Sankirtan, or the building a temple, or financial management, or preaching to the various kinds of people. And the first cow, actually we had Bhumi Devi, that's what I came to know. Right now the cow production actually started long time back, right? And it's amazing when you said because of that the temple started flourishing once the cows started being worshipped. And that's exactly Harilas Prabhu's new project here. We just started July 1st in the new form, new Goloka form. So we should support in whatever way we can and participate. So I'm really thankful and indebted to on behalf of the congregation for all the great work they have done. And we continue to seek their blessings and continue further. Hare Krishna.
That was very nice, wasn't it?